Welcome back. It is Wednesday, and you know what that means. Mental Health Minute. And today, I'm going to slow it down. I usually am excited and thrilled, and I'm always thrilled when I have guests come through. But today, for this Mental Health Minute, we are talking about anxiety and anxiety getting the best of us. And I know it can happen to all of us at times where we do not want it and do not invite it. But today we're going to talk about anxiety and we're just going to scratch the surface, get an intro on it. And we are going to have different series around anxiety. And I am going to bring different individuals in who speak on it and who are educated on the topic and who also experience it themselves. So, in saying that today, because it is Wednesday, we are doing our mental health minute. And in the house, I have Miss Daisy Rios, the therapist from Chicago, and she is going to give us some amazing gems and food for thought on this topic. But before we get into this topic, you know what we need to do. I need to give you that 1 minute. And that 1 minute is for you. It represents the time that you need to take for yourself to give yourself the love you need, or remind you of something you need to accomplish, or to remind yourself to give yourself grace on whatever challenge you're facing this week. This minute belongs to you. I hope you enjoy it. And when you're finished with that minute, come on back so you can get this goodness and we can dive in a little bit on anxiety getting the best of us. I will see you after that minute. Peace. All right. Thank you for taking that minute with us. Thank you for taking that minute for yourself. That mental health minute, we're always going to do it on every Wednesday. And I hope that you can implement that 1 minute in your life through your routines, through the daily things that you do, because that's what it's all about. And as you heard in the beginning, before we went into that 1 minute, I shared that we are going to go into a beautiful topic. And once again, we have Miss Daisy Rios in the house. As I said, I'm going to give that applause. Yeah, let's give it up to Miss Daisy. And today, Miss Daisy, we are talking about anxiety getting the best of us. I know we're all plagued by it in some different way, and maybe plagued is not the right word, but affected by it in some different way. What is the gems and information you have for us today?
Yeah, anxiety can be different for everybody, right? So when we look at anxiety, we have to first understand the link between like our brain and our response system, because that's really what's happening when we look at anxiety. And anxiety is not always bad, right? There's healthy forms of anxiety and then there's unhealthy forms of anxiety. So it really depends on like what's happening in our own functionality and how we're responding to determine like what is healthy and what's unhealthy.
I'm glad you said that about the healthy elements of anxiety, right? Could you give us some examples of that? Because I
Yeah.
think I have some thoughts immediately, but I might be way off. So I would love to hear your thoughts about what would be those healthy anxieties or examples.
Yeah, so when I think about healthy anxiety, I think about the things that we can look forward to, right? So say you're about to have a friend come into town that you haven't seen for a really long time and you're really excited to see them, right? That's healthy anxiety. If you're looking forward to getting a package in the mail and you're like, oh, I hope it comes, I hope it comes, I can't wait for it to come, right? That's healthy anxiety. Right? Or even anxiety for like a test, right? If you have a test coming, if I'm thinking about people who are in high school, if they have a test coming, they might, get some butterflies in their stomach, or they might get a little bit of upset stomach. That's still healthy anxiety. When we look at unhealthy, it means it's impacting our ability to function, right? To be able to move forward in things. So there's a little bit of a difference.
For sure. No, thank you for expanding on that thought because when I immediately thought I thought about my Amazon packages,
Yeah.
right? Especially a person who works from home, right? I work remotely. I take care of clients from home, and
Hmm.
part of that is the little things you look for to step away from your home desk, right? Is like the package out there, and it's just cleaning supplies. There's nothing exciting, people. It is just cleaning supplies. But yeah, I get what you're saying in that, in terms of that, general happy feeling around anxiety, or that happy anxiety or positive anxiety. In terms of that, the other end of that, right? And I know, as I work with different young people and I coach a couple of young people currently, one of the things that's across the board is the words of getting the best of me, right? And as a coach, I approach that in different ways and try to help the young people that I coach, tools that they can use to help process some of that, to release some of that, right? In terms of that, getting the best of them, and anxiety really taking the control of someone. And sometimes, as you know this, Daisy, it's not just mentally at times, right? It can be physically as well, right? It can be spiritually
Yes.
for some folks too.
Hmm.
So in that sense, for the folks who might be in the space of the other end, we spoke of the, healthy anxiety, or positive anxiety. What about the other end that's really getting the best of our folks? And
All right.
maybe a two-parter here. How do we help our folks to get past it, or to support them in the process of it?
Yeah, the unhealthy anxiety can be really debilitating for people, and it can cause people to shut down, right? So as you were talking, I was thinking about how many people really shut down and they go into their turtle shell because the world just seems really hard. And that anxiety, that self-doubt, or that it could be internal doubt, external doubt, whatever is happening for them is creating a cycle, right? It's creating a step process for them, and sometimes that doesn't feel good, right? So when people experience anxiety, they often lack the awareness of how to address it, or how to um, really think about it too. So then they just shut down, right? So no longer able to do things that they can normally do, even if it's go to school every day or go to work on time, right? They may need that extra time in the car, right? So I think about anxiety and how it relates to like our executive functioning, right? So if somebody's experiencing a lot of anxiety, they're probably going to have some challenges with executive functioning in that moment, right? Um, I think of anxiety too is fear of not knowing what is actually going to happen, right? So I see it like, um, I talk to people about anxiety, and I say, sometimes it is a thunderstorm. And when that thunderstorm is happening, it's really, really hard to go through it and to experience all of that sensory information that's happening. However, storms don't last forever. They often start to get lighter and then they often disappear, right? So like working through anxiety is being able to go through that storm and come out on the other end with a little bit more connection to self and awareness of like what is actually happening for me.
Thank you for sharing that, Miss Daisy. As you're kind of expressing and breaking down those different things, one of the things you said that really resonated for me was the patterns. And man, they're almost, when I think of those patterns for my own self and maybe others I work with, almost those maze that have no ending. Or it feels like that, right?
Yeah.
You're walking in that corn maze, but as you enter it, they're telling you there's no ending to this corn maze. You're gonna be in there all day, right? And
Mhm.
so I guess in terms of like those patterns, and I know that they can be sometimes, and I'll speak for myself, my patterns can be predictable. I can almost predict them at times, right?
Yeah.
I guess for the folks who are trying to get away from those patterns, or maybe trying to establish a new pattern to recover from that pattern, right? Or to remove themselves to that pattern, to recover to that pattern, right? I know you know where I'm going with it. Like, I guess, what about those folks, or the pattern folks who are already like, I need a new pattern. How do I get there? What are some things I can do
Yeah.
to get there? I guess, what are your thoughts on that?
Sure. Yeah, so I think it's a two-parter, right? So you said something that kind of provoked some thought for me about the corn maze, right? So the corn maze can easily be tied to anxiety because it's a feeling of being trapped, right? You want out so bad, but there's things that are not allowing you to get out, right? So you feel very trapped and that feels very overwhelming, right? So and then the other part is really identifying what the cycle of anxiety is. So as you were talking too, I was like, oh, it's this hamster wheel. It just keeps going and going and going, right? And the cycle of anxiety really starts out with some sort of stimuli or trigger that creates this nervous feeling that feels uncontrollable, right? So we don't want to be in that space. So what we try to do is we avoid it. We avoid that space because that feels good. However, it only feels good momentarily, right? That relief is very brief. And then it comes back around. And when it comes back around, it comes back even stronger, right? So then the anxiety comes back even stronger, right? It has that like really intense return. So I think some of the things we can do when we are starting to feel anxious is one, we have to be able to recognize when it's happening. We have to know what our cues are, right? So I like to work with people and say, what are the things that you're noticing about yourself when you start to feel anxious or you start to feel that baseline go up, right? So being able to recognize it and then understanding it. What is it being caused by? Is this based on irrational belief or is this based on evidence, right? So that evidence and that irrational belief is going to really link our thoughts to what we're experiencing in the moment, right? So when I think of strategies or ways that we can kind of divert ourselves from anxiety, I think about grounding, right? Being able to go outside, take a walk, being able to ask yourself, what are something, what are three things I can smell, three things I can feel, three things I can see, right? So really it is about how do we distract our brain from that irrational belief or from that stimuli so that way we can start to regulate again, so we can start to breathe again. I even think about the sensory, right? So whether it's going into your fridge and grabbing a piece of ice, right? An ice cube, and being able to have that cold sensation, or running your hands under cold water, right? Sticking something sour in your mouth. People, I think I just now really learning that if you stick a Sour Patch Kid in your mouth when you're about to have a panic attack, your brain can't do both at the same time. So it chooses to regulate that sour taste and not give all that energy to the shallow breathing that's going to cause the panic attack.
So, wait, Miss Daisy is cooking. The therapist from Chicago is cooking here, and you said a lot of amazing things, Miss Daisy. And I'm glad you resonated with that maze thing because when you were speaking, that's it, right? That's what I saw. I saw the maze. And then the next question I was going, and you kind of went there and talked about it, some of the like self-actualization, like self-acknowledgement, like what am I going through? Am I going through that? And then I love how you connected to like go outside and ask yourself, are you really smelling pollution? Or right? Are you right? What is those things? It's almost this self-checking in. And then I guess I was gonna ask you to that degree, right? And and I know this is all on an individual basis, but do you recommend for an individual who might have some triggering anxieties that can happen at any moment and they know that, but right, they're trying to do their best. They're trying to get through life. They're trying to go to work, right? And survive just like everybody else. They got to still do it.
Mhm.
Is it best for that person to say to someone close, and I'm speaking specifically work related, right? Because right, we know anxiety don't take a break when you go to work.
Right.
It's still there.
That's
So in
what,
that
that's why
sense,
masking is so popular.
so in saying that, like, right, I guess for that workspace, is it important for that or is it beneficial? Not important. Is it beneficial for if it's me and I'm going through that and I know I have my moments to maybe share that either with a good colleague, colleague I'm close to, or, someone who I feel safe with, obviously, right? If it's a
Right.
supervisor you feel safe with, hey, but I said colleague because I felt like, supervisor is just one of those hard areas to be too honest, right?
Sure. Yeah, it's a power thing. Yeah.
So in that sense, I guess, what is your thoughts on that piece?
So I think there is great value in having an accountability person or a person who you can share that like almost that not responsibility, but that well-being notion, right? So that connection. So if you do feel safe, and I think safe is a key word, right? That you mentioned, like one has to feel safe being able to disclose very private thoughts and feelings to someone, right? And know that that's going to be respected and honored. And I think it's a great idea if someone does have safety to have a person that you can maybe send one or two words to, and if they can run up to wherever you're at and just be present with you, or maybe they don't have to solve your experience, but maybe just be present with you in it, or even reminding you of some of the things that have worked before, right? I think that could be really valuable. There has to be safety in that, though, in order for that to work. But you shouldn't experience your anxiety alone.
Thank you for saying that. And that was like, you full capped that one for me in the sense of like where I was thinking and going. And I think, I love the word you said, value. I use beneficial, but value is probably the better word for it, of the value of having someone who, whether it's accountability or maybe even a check-in buddy, someone who just, they know you go through some things and they accept you wholeheartedly. They ain't judging
Absolutely.
you at work, right? That's the all-star you need to probably put some value to and say, hey, I go through these things. Can you just, make sure that if you see me a little this way or whatever it may be, right? I think those signs that you spoke about are so beneficial, obviously in the individual aspect of just self-recognition and recognizing, right? But also being able to share that. And I think, why I think I brought up that question, it all goes and it's all connected with the Who's Helping You Heal movement, right? Of not doing things in silence, not going through things in silence, being able to share with people. And it's okay to be a little vulnerable for your own well-being, right? For your own mental
Yeah.
health.
I think when we think about our own mental health and we think about how we can heal, we have to think about that discomfort and being able to understand what that discomfort means, right? So just like anxiety can feel like a thunderstorm, right? Somebody can just be there to hold your umbrella. And that's all they're doing, right? They're waiting it out with you, you know? But being able to have someone to help you heal has so much value in it because very often people who experience anxiety, even debilitating anxiety, they do feel like it's a very isolating experience.
I love that umbrella thing. That was on point, Miss Daisy.
Yeah.
It's so right, right? It's that support you need, and I think part of it, as I think about this, and before we hit the record button, we started having this wonderful conversation. I shared with Miss Daisy that we're gonna have to do like a one, two, three, four-part series around anxiety, healthy conversations. And I know we're like, just kind of scratching the surface with this one and giving some thoughts, as you know, with every mental health minute that we do, Miss Daisy, because you're the originator of the original therapist that joined me on this platform. There's the one, two tangible resources that we love to provide, that I love to provide for our listeners. And I just want to say to our listeners, please like, subscribe, comment, share. Thank you for the views, especially around the mental health minute segments, because we do this all for the people to heal. This is all great information for folks to heal and to live the lives that they feel great with, right? That they feel are beneficial to their own self. So in saying that, what is the one-two tangible resource on this part one conversation we're having around anxiety?
Yeah, so the 1, 2 thing, sensory. Don't forget sensory intake can help with anxiety, right? So if you're experiencing anxiety, what are some of the other things your senses can go through? Remember, we have 5 of them, right? That they can go through to help regulate through that, whether it's touch, smell, sight, whatever it is, right? It's about being able to redirect what your brain is focusing on, so that way you can focus on regulation. So I think that's a really important part of it. And another part of it is don't do this alone. Anxiety is a human experience. We all do it. We all have it, right? It's just a matter of what it looks like. So just kind of remember this is something we can all get through together.
Well, you heard it. Love that, Miss Daisy. Thank you. As usual, Miss Daisy is always giving us some gems. I really appreciate Miss Daisy, not just as a friend, as just someone who I look up to as a therapist who's doing her thing. Thank you for coming through, Miss Daisy. Thank you, everybody, for joining this Mental Health Minute. We do it every Wednesday for y'all. So, like I said before, like, subscribe, comment, share, all this great material, and we will be back every Wednesday to provide this Mental Health Minute. So, you know what the last words are from me here. Who's helping you here? Peace.